Hello and welcome to our recap of the NA LCS Last Chance Qualifier. It's a lot of acronyms back to back. Now, as a reminder, I predicted Complexity to win. Now let's review what actually happened. So, in Group A, I had Complexity 3 owing sweeping Step Bros. They actually lost a game. They actually lost a game 4-0, which is crazy. Maybe this should have been my red flag. So Complexity did win, but they lost a game to the Little Step Bros. I had Pepega Shake barely beating Psycho Rangers. It wasn't too close. It was 3-1. So 2 for 2 on those predictions. Then I had NPL beating Affinity 3-1. That's exactly what happened. I had Carl beating Norms 3-1. Boom, that's also what happened. So yes, perfect upper quarterfinals Group A stage. Not game perfect, but prediction perfect. So then Complexity Pepega Shake. I had Complexity. They actually swept them in a good series for them. But look, it was 3 overtimes in a row, so that could have gone different ways. And then NPL Carl. I actually had Carl winning, but this match was relatively close, but NPL looked really good. So did get that one incorrect. Now in the lowers, Little Step Bros versus Psycho Rangers. I actually had the Psycho Rangers winning, but Step Bros won, and they actually took Carl to Game 5, but not a close Game 5, but they got reverse swept there. And Carl ends up qualifying through there. And then Affinity Norms, I had Norms 3-2ing Affinity. It was actually a 3-1. And then I had Pepega Shake 3-1ing Norms. They swept him 3-0 with pretty dominant fashion. So Complexity, NPL, Carl, Pepega Shake, Complexity, Carl, NPL, Pepega Shake. So relatively close. Did get these two swapped around based on them losing, but I think if my predictions had been correct, all of these 4 teams still would have made it. These were probably the best 4 teams in this group. So we're going to count that as almost 4 out of 4. Let's look at Group B real quick. I had Rebellion 3-1ing Hey Bro. That's exactly what happened. I had Gas beating BOTB 3-1. That's exactly what happened. I had the boys beating Pirates on a Boat. That is not what happened. And that kind of scared me when I saw them lose that. So that one was a bigger miss by me. And then 100 by 35, I had beating Rotopia 3-1. It was actually 3-2. And yeah, that was those results. So 3 out of 4 for this one instead. Then Rebellion, I had beating Gas 3-1. It was actually 3-2. Pirates on a Boat ended up qualifying through. I had the boys qualifying through the uppers here. So 100 by 35 had losing to either the boys or Pirates on a Boat, which is kind of funny. That's how that ended up working out for the bracket. So then in the lowers, I had Hey Bro 3-1ing BOTB. They 3-0'd them instead. And then I had Pirates on a Boat 3-1ing Rotopia, but instead of Pirates, it was the boys down here, and you can see they swept Gas to qualify through. So then I had 100 by 35 at Hey Bro. I had 100 by 35 winning that, which is what they ended up doing. But as you can see, it was a 5-minute overtime in Game 5. So there's definitely a world where Hey Bro wins this and qualifies through into the playoff stage. But that's not what happened. So this one, I was also 4 out of 4 on my picks, but I missed my first round got messed up. But I do think the best 4 teams qualified through. I mean, Gas, to me, it's like Garrett, AJ, Squishy. This is a team that always does relatively well because of just their skill floor is very high. Granted, they all had pretty successful RLCS careers, especially Garrett and Squishy. But they don't scrim, apparently, from what I've gathered. So if they're not going to, like they're just showing up and playing, and they're still beating these mid-tier teams that are actually scrimming and taking it seriously. I do think if they scrimmed seriously, Gas would probably be a top threat of these lower Chance Qualifiers, but the fact that they don't scrim, I think, kind of wipes them out here. But if they, I know it's kind of ironic to say, but if they took it serious, I do think they would be like top 4 in this bracket, because the skill, they have such a high skill floor. If they worked on their ceiling and their teamwork a little bit, I think they would get even better results. Now let's talk about what happened in the playoffs. So in the lowers, my bracket got a little bit messed up because of those losses that I talked about earlier that I didn't predict. So I had Pirates winning over NPL. Well, Pirates was actually in the uppers, so this wasn't really a relevant choice. But I had Pirates beating NPL. Pirates don't get to play NPL here, so we don't really get to look at that matchup. I had Pepega Shake beating 100 by 35. That matchup didn't get to happen because 100 by 35 lost to Carl. So in the uppers, complexity over the boys, I had as a 4-1. They got to play later in the series, and the boys actually won, or later in the playoffs, I should say. And we'll talk about that match in a moment. And then I had Rebellion beating Carl 4-2. Rebellion beat NPL 4-0. And they were looking really good in that sweep. So that means lower quarterfinals, I had the boys versus Pirates on a boat. Obviously, in the reality, they didn't get a chance to play each other in the best of 7 series. So I had the boys advancing through, and I had Carl advancing through, but Pirates beat Carl to advance through, and the boys beat NPL to advance through. This was an awesome series. I think if you could only watch one series, I would watch the NPL The Boys series. I felt like that one was really fun to watch. I would recommend watching that one because they really went back and forth, and it was really fun to watch. Especially if you didn't really care too much who won, then it was really entertaining. Semifinals, the top 4 teams that I ended up with were Rebellion, Boys, Complexity, and Carl. And I missed that by 1 because it was Rebellion, Pirates on a Boat, Complexity, and the Boys. So Pirates on a Boat beat Carl. If Carl would have beat Pirates on a Boat, then I would have been 4-4. That's okay because I didn't predict either Pirates on a Boat or Complexity to go. Well, I actually didn't pick Pirates on a Boat to go that far, right? I had them going out the previous round. So I didn't have them in my top 4, obviously. That Rebellion beat Pirates on a Boat 4-2 to advance to the grand final. And the boys beat Complexity 4-2. This was kind of an inverse of what I expected to happen. I thought Complexity was going to 4-1 the boys. Obviously, that's not what happened. The boys came out really strong. You can see they went down 1, then they won 2 back. Then the series went 2-2, and then the boys kind of finished out last 2 to get the win, and they played really well. It was kind of heartbreaking to watch Complexity not do so well. If I remember correct, there was a couple like kind of simple or silly mistakes from Complexity at some points during this series that really sealed the deal, whereas the boys were playing, to their peak or to a higher level, and Complexity was kind of playing to their floor. They didn't look too good on Sunday, I think, honestly, so they ended up losing, and my prediction therefore lost, didn't even get a chance to go to the grand final. But my slightly under popular pick of the boys being in the grand final was correct, and the scoreline was correct, but I didn't predict Rebellion to beat the boys so dominantly. I actually had picked it in my semifinals where the boys were going to 4-3 Rebellion, but they actually came up and 4-1 the boys in the grand final, and they looked really good. Well, I should say they looked pretty good. I don't know if any team looked amazing. I think we saw flashes from Rebellion, especially this NPL series. Rebellion looked like, hey, this team could do something on LAN. This team is playing good. I think all of them were making good plays. I think Two Piece was really helping a lot. Reddles was dishing doing assists like crazy, putting his teammates in great places, kind of playing his game of eliminating the opponents through demos during his rotations. Wavy was playing really good. He had a couple awesome like 50s and 1v1 moments that show his skill there. So I think, this team could be really good on LAN. I think they're going to do well. Of course, we're going to do a last chance qualifier bracket review later once we get EU's team. But I looked at the bracket so far for Rebellion, and I like their bracket that they have. So Shopify Rebellion, they're the ones that NA is going to send. I saw a stat on the subreddit that this is the first time in Rocket League history where NA is sending all Americans as their team, which is kind of interesting to think about. I guess we don't have any Canadians. And then obviously with Complexity not winning through, that takes a lot of those guys out. So that's basically all American is what I've gathered from it. Maybe it was just all North America, Canada, USA, Mexico, technically North America, but I don't know. So if you know that for sure, let us know in the comments. What do you guys think? Do you think, A, did you pick Shopify Rebellion to win? If so, congratulations. B, how do you think they're going to do at Worlds in Lyon? Do you think, I believe they're playing Virtus Pro. Let me see if I can pull that up really quick. The play-in right here. So you can see Corinthians versus Gen G, Rock versus Foot, Shopify Rebellion versus Virtus Pro, and the EU winner against TSM. EU winner, high candidates are probably Gentlemates and Ninjas and Pajamas. And I'm without going into a bunch of other teams, there's other teams that could definitely win, but those are probably the two most likely picks right now. So Shopify Rebellion is going to have to beat Virtus Pro, and then realistically either Gentlemates or TSM or Ninjas and Pajamas. Or I mean, we'll look at the last chance qualifiers for Europe, and we'll do one this week. But I think, I do wish they were in this upper section, but also I think Gen G has a better chance of qualifying through by being up here. So I don't want NA to cannibalize NA. So I think that's good for us to have one solid team in each section of the bracket. And obviously the top 4 teams from these 8 are going to qualify through. So I do think Rebellion and Gen G are both going to make it based on the brackets I've heard so far. Even if Rebellion loses to an EU team, I think they can still win through in the loser bracket. Be on the lookout for more prediction videos. If you like these type of reviews, post-mortems, if you want to call them, of the predictions that I've made, I'm happy to keep making them. And thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.